Western Conference Semifinals of this year's NBA playoffs, and why I think this game will be one of the most important performances of Nikola Jokic's career. Allow me to set the scene heading into this playoff series. You have the number 2 seeded Denver Nuggets just coming off of a 5-game win against the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, this was a matchup we had seen last year in the Western Conference Finals, and we got to get a rematch in just the first round, featuring amazing performances from Jokic, Gordon, Michael Porter Jr., and 2 game winners from none other than Jamal Murray. The Nuggets were holding their heads up high. They could not fully sweep the Lakers once again, but they did gentlemen sweep them, and they were looking just as dominant as they did last year in their finals championship. On the other side of this, you have the Minnesota Timberwolves, who shocked the world with their fantastic performance against the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns were one of 2 underdog teams that were more favored to come out on top than their counterparts. I believe it was the Mavericks who were expected to upset the Clippers, and the Suns who were expected to upset the Timberwolves. But the Timberwolves not only beat the Suns, they swept them. In just 4 games, they were able to eliminate Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker, the new Big Three, the talk of the offseason. And with that, we saw the rise of our newest star, Anthony Edwards. Now, a lot of us have known that Anthony Edwards is a good player. He just signed a max contract. He made an all-star game. But this was different. The amount of charisma and charm and absolute aura that is emanating from Anthony Edwards is something that the league, it craves. Anthony Edwards is next up, and there's no denying it based on his performance in this series. So now we have a very compelling fight between the defending champions and what could be the new face of the league one day. And, the stakes are high. These 2 teams, they swapped victories during their regular season battle. Obviously, the Denver Nuggets finished 1 game ahead in the regular season, so they edged the Timberwolves out in terms of regular season standing. But to be honest, the Timberwolves are pretty well constructed. They're a deep team, and they have a lot of big-bodied guys. They could give the Nuggets a run for their money. So, how will this pan out? Well, contrary to what most people expected, this series in the first 2 games was blowing everyone's minds. Flash forward 2 games, the Minnesota Timberwolves managed to steal both away games from the Denver Nuggets. We see the Denver Nuggets, who were so dominant against the Lakers, absolutely battering them, bruising them, some of their games, playing exceptionally well in the 3rd and 4th quarters and winning those clutch time games. They lost, and not like some simple losses. They lost game 2 very badly. Game 1, you have I believe it was a 43-point performance from Anthony Edwards, staying on that high altitude that he was in that Sun series. He brings in all that energy against the Nuggets and manages to steal game 1 from Denver. Game 2, Rudy Gobert is announced to win the Defensive Player of the Year award for the 4th time in his career, and he is not available for the game, which is a concern. Obviously, you have the biggest defensive guy on your team, the central pillar to your defense. He helped the Timberwolves get the number 1 best defense on the year across the entire league, and he is out for the birth of his child. So how will the Timberwolves deal with his absence? They win in an even more dominant fashion. They hang up a 26-point victory on the Nuggets' head at the Nuggets' home, winning 106-80. And at this point, Nuggets team is getting swept. You got Shaquille O'Neal interviewing Nikola Jokic on the day he was awarded this prestigious honor and telling him to his face, I don't think you deserved it. I think that MVP belongs to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and I need you to know that. And Nikola Jokic, being the man that he is, he just takes it, he smiles and said, yeah, you're entitled to your own opinion, and he doesn't really put up any fighting words. And this lovable charm about Jokic, this seemingly indifferent attitude towards basketball is now being used against him. Whereas before, he was just this cool guy who thought that the NBA was just a job, a 9 to 5, he had no joy in him. And yet he was still able to be one of the best players, if not the best player in the league. It was something that people were rocking it with. But now they were saying, they're switching up on him. They're saying, really? This guy has 3 MVPs, and he's about to get swept in 2 of his MVP years. That's the narrative that's going around. People are pulling up highlights or clips from him on the series saying he can't defend. So the whole world is turning their backs on the Nuggets and on Nikola Jokic. So how do they respond? They're down in an 0-2 hole. Only 5 teams have ever come back from a 7-game series when, actually it's not even a 7-game series. One of the teams did it in only 5 games, but only 5 teams have ever come back to win a series after starting 0-2 and losing both their home games. What will the Nuggets ever do about this? Well, game 3, backs against the walls, they go to Minnesota and they say, we are here and we're going to fight. So they get a victory. They blow out the Timberwolves, showing them like, we are not a joke. We are not going to go out sorry like this. You are going to have to play some perfect basketball again if you want to eliminate us. Beating them by 27 points, 117-90. In this game, it was, a truly evenly played, well all-around game from the Nuggets. You had Aaron Gordon playing very well, you had Jokic playing very well, you had Jamal Murray all playing exceptional. Then we head into game 4, and this one, it's pretty big. You avoided the 0-3 deficit, but 3-1 is not a good place to be either. If you're LeBron, I think that Nuggets team from a couple years ago, that Clippers team from a couple years ago, sure you can do it, but it is brutal. So how will they respond in their next game? Anthony Edwards plays a phenomenal game, 44 points from him, but his supporting cast just can't do it. Karl Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert, not the best offensive performances from them. And on the other side, you have Aaron Gordon turning into prime Kobe Bryant, missing 1 shot from the field, putting up 27 points on their head, shooting lights out from 3. And, another very good performance from Nikola Jokic himself. And with that, the Denver Nuggets are able to undo some of the blasphemy that was going out against them. Everyone was saying, this Nuggets team, it was a fluke. Jokic, in his MVP years, does he need this many MVPs? He's just getting swept in the playoffs after he wins these. What is the value of these trophies? He turns the tides. The Nuggets showed that they are the defending champions. They're not going to go out like this. And they match up the series 2-2. Then we head into game 5. It's anyone's game now. Obviously, the series is heading back to Denver, and you would think that the Nuggets have an advantage, but not a single home team has won this entire series. And there's no short in confidence from Rudy Gobert or Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards just put up 44 points. Rudy Gobert comes out and says, all those shots on Aaron Gordon, they were contested. So, if he turns into Kobe, what can we really do about it? We're gonna have to live with that. And so, they're writing it off as, just a lucky day for the Nuggets, saying that they've got the next one. he's saying, this is looking like barbecue chicken. Rudy Gobert can do nothing to stop this man. The Joker is just too good for him. Granted, this is the 4-time Defensive Player of the Year winner. The man that led the Minnesota Timberwolves to the #1 best defensive rating all season. They were saying that Jokic just clapped, these 3 big men are too good for him in the first 2 games. And now all of a sudden, these last 2 games, it has flipped once again. And he is absolutely cooking. He goes back out in the second half, and he has an even better performance. Even Reggie Miller is in on it now. The commentators are all talking about how Jokic is making an absolute fool out of Rudy Gobert in this game. When the game finally comes to an end, and it wasn't really particularly close. The Nuggets were up almost 20 points in the fourth quarter, and the Timberwolves had no answer for Nikola Jokic. It was one of the greatest superstar performances I have seen live. Honestly, it was up there with Game 6 Clay, Curry in Game 4 against the Celtics. It was one of those games where you just saw a person absolutely take over. And it wasn't even that he was being loud. He wasn't being arrogant. He simply let his game speak for itself. He heard all of the noise about how he is going out again, how he doesn't deserve his trophies. And he showed you, this is who I am. This is what I am capable of. Hanging up 40 points on the defense player. The best part about that line, he matched up against Gobert 9 times. He went 8 of 9 on his shots on Gobert. He even splashed a 3 on his face. I have very rarely seen a game and thought, this is history right here. But that is exactly what I thought as that game was finishing. Jokic, they would have been in a horrible spot. Minnesota, if they won that game, they pick up another one on the road. They get to go home with all the momentum in the series. It's a lot harder to win in a 7-game series than it is to win this in 6. So he put his foot down, turned the tides back in the favor of Denver. They went down 0-2. They responded with 3 straight victories, and not some ticky-tacky referee-led comebacks. This was pure grit. They grinded out and destroyed the Timberwolves in 2 of these games, and showed that they are still the team to beat in the West. This is their time. Jokic, 3-time MVP winner, and he's going to win more. He is not done. He is not apathetic. He is not lazy. He is going to do more in his career. And now, all we can do is witness how the story unfolds. I think that Game 6 of this series is going to be one of the most integral games to these playoffs into the stories of Nikola Jokic and Anthony Edwards. It is no longer about the Denver Nuggets and about the Minnesota Timberwolves, but more so about where's the league going, who is going to be in the driver's seat of the NBA in the next coming years. So we get to see how a young Anthony Edwards will respond to this. Will he be able to go back into Denver? Oh wait, I guess they're in Minnesota. Will they be able to go back to Minnesota and force a Game 7 and show that this team is legit? That trade, it was made, and obviously it had good effects. That Rudy Gobert trade, I was a hater. I didn't think it was going to work out, but they showed this year that it is a winning formula. And a lot of people were saying that the GM that formed the Denver Nuggets went to Minnesota and built the anti-Denver Nuggets roster, the perfect team to take down his old, champion. But we'll have to see. The jury is still out on how far this Minnesota team can go. But they have an important one to win on Thursday if they want chance at a finals run this year. So that will be a important game for Anthony Edwards' legacy. And Jokic, if they happen to lose the next 2 games, I don't know how the media will frame it. But at the moment, I think this will be seen as the turning point, as one of those things. You know, when they talk about the Rockets in that year against the Warriors and how they were so close, how they almost did it, and then Chris Paul got hurt and they just fell apart. They might talk about Timberwolves in that way. Went up 2-0 on the defending champions, really had them gutted, looking horrible, no answers. And then Nikola Jokic happened. He took that series back and led them to another finals. I think that this is an important game in the history of his story. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy content like this, feel free to like, comment, or subscribe. I'll be putting out more videos as the weeks go on. And yeah, let me know. Let me know what you think of the playoffs so far. Who do you think is taking these series? You've got Denver up 3-2 against Minnesota. You've got the New York Knicks now up 3-2 against the Pacers. I believe the Boston Celtics are up 3-1, and the last game gets played today. And then what is our last series? The other one in the West. 2-2 apiece for the Dallas Mavericks and the OKC Thunder. Thunder responded very well in their last game. You know, they made their free throws. They made it hard on Luka and the rest of them. They made it hard on Luka all series. But very interesting to see how both of those series end up. Both of those teams, what they do, how they respond. Important game 5 today for them. But yeah, thank you for watching.